Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the free Loving the Thin Skin You're In training for sensitive and empath women. As usual, I have Facebook here and I have Instagram here, so I'm talking to you guys both at the same time. Excuse my soaking wet hair. I was getting ready for going out for Valentine's Day tonight, which is a very appropriate thing to bring up because our topic today, well, yesterday we really talked about building strong roots. Actually, that was day 1, and then we talked about all the feels yesterday, how to handle emotional overwhelm as a highly sensitive and empathic woman. And today we are going to be talking about what I like to call the unlearning, which is really about, how do we come back to the truth of who we are before the world told us who we were supposed to be. Before I dive into that real quick, as you guys join in, say hello, let me know where you're tuning in from. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Valentine's Day so far. And just real quick before we go into the content of the training today, if you've been on the last couple of days, you've been hearing me talk about this. If you've been following me for some time, I'm sure you've seen me posting. Hi. Oh, hi, Gwen. And so I am in the middle of enrollment for my Sensitive Badass Coaching Mentorship. And you guys will see it on my page on Facebook and on Instagram that I've been posting about it. It's a really incredible opportunity for those of you out there who are empaths and who are sensitive, who are looking for some support around, navigating the world with this extra layer of sensing that you have, right? And also how to kind of maximize the benefits and minimize the challenges of being a highly sensitive person in this world. Because, hi guys, it can be really challenging, but it doesn't have to be. There's a lot of things that you can learn and a lot of things that you can do so that you can really enjoy the benefits of your highly sensitive superpower instead of being bogged down by the challenges of it. So that's what this program is really about. It's an amazing 6-month experience where you get my personal one-on-one support as an intuitive guide and coach and sensitivity expert, and then you also get the support of all of the other women that are coming into the program who are amazing, I may mention. And it's really cool because it's this real sacred sisterhood of healing and growing and building strong roots and really coming together to rise as sensitive women and to step into our full capacity as, healers in this world, whether that's in your profession, whether that's in your personal life, however that shows up for you, because so many of us that are sensitive, in fact, almost all of us that are sensitive, we want to help and heal so greatly. We have a deep innate desire to give back to the world. But what happens so often is that we get stuck, we get in our own way, and that holds us back from our full capacity of giving to the world and our full capacity of enjoying our lives, really, and enjoying our own sensitivity and being able to appreciate this unique gift that we have, right? And so that's really what this mentorship program is about. It's everything, a culmination of all of the work that I've been doing for the last 5 years working with sensitive and empathic women. And it's going to be an amazing experience. If you guys are feeling called at all, if you are interested in this program, for those of you on Instagram, thank you. For those of you on Instagram, the link is in my profile. And for those of you on Facebook, the link is in the title of this video. So that's a little bit about the big offering that I have for you guys right now. We have 3 days left. So the doors close on Friday at midnight Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, the spiritual grind says she's an empath. Hello, fellow empath. Yeah, so that closes on Friday. So if you guys are at all interested, check out the sign up page and take advantage of the opportunity to get on the phone with me. I'm doing free calls all week just for us to really get to know each other, chat about what's going on with your sensitivity, if it's something that you're struggling with, and then we can together decide if the mentorship is a good fit for you or not. Because it's not going to be for everybody, right? And I want everybody that comes in to this program to really feel amazing and empowered about their decision. So let's get into today's content. So today I want to talk to you guys, and this is so appropriate for Valentine's Day, right? Because it's the day of love, and but I want to talk about self-love, and I want to talk about our self-talk and how we treat ourselves. So what happens oftentimes, or actually let me start with my own story, which I'm sure that you guys have heard some of my story. But when I was growing up, like a lot of people, you know, a lot of people around me, they were really critical towards me, right? I heard a lot of things like, why are you so sensitive? Why are you so dramatic? Why are you so emotional? And it was really difficult for me growing up because I was so susceptible to other people's emotions. And so I really took that in at a very deep level. And everything that everybody was saying to me was sunk in, and I believed them, right? And so then I started thinking that I was too sensitive, that I was too emotional, that there was something wrong with me, that I was flawed. And I really lived a lot of my life from that place. And that set in stone these really limiting beliefs that, you know, stuck with me up until my mid-20s. And that, you know, I mean, these things pop up over time, but it was really difficult for me because I started to tell myself the things that the world was telling me. Right? And so I started invalidating my own feelings. I started to talk very negatively to myself. You know, for a long time, it got to the point where I really felt like I did not like myself. You know, I felt so deeply flawed, and my self-talk got very ingrained. I had this very mean inner critic, right? That was like constant. I felt like I had like a drill sergeant in my head that was always telling me, oh, you know, you're not doing this well enough, you're not doing that well enough, constantly second guessing myself, constantly feeling like, you know, constantly feeling like I was not doing the right thing, that I wasn't being good enough. You know, it was this interesting dichotomy between feeling like I wasn't good enough, and at the same time feeling like I was too much. So there was this, you know, there was this interesting dichotomy there. And I thank you, the spiritual grind. Really quickly, I just want to address Elizabeth here, and let you know, honey, that if it's bothering you that I've been promoting the program, you're welcome to hop off. I really, you know, I actually struggle with promoting my work because I don't want people to feel the way that you're feeling right now. You know, some people do see it as greedy or money hungry, and I don't. I see it as giving people the opportunity to sign up for something that would really deeply change their lives. And I know that because I've invested in myself thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And this program is a culmination of my heart's work. And so I am out here promoting it proudly. And I only want the women to come into it that it feels right for them. So just to address that there. Anyways, so back to the training. So what I had to do in the beginning was I had to, in the beginning of trying to kind of come back home to, you know, the truth of who I was and come back home to learning how to love myself. I was really, really trying to, in the beginning, I had to do it from a place of I was doing it for others, you know? So it was like, I felt like I needed to start to love myself more for other people. And that's fine. In the beginning, that was what got me to start doing this work on myself, right? But over time, it became for me. And I really understood going through this process. And for me personally, I had a very serious eating disorder. And those of you that have been following me for a while, I'm sure you've heard me talk about that. And that was my rock bottom. And that was the point where I got to where I had to you know, I kind of fell to my knees, and I had to reach a point where I was like, am I going to continue to treat myself so badly, or am I going to get better and be able to live my life? And so, you know, I decided I'm going to do this, but I decided I was going to do it because I realized that I wasn't just hurting myself, I was hurting other people. I was hurting my friends and my family. And that was what motivated me in the beginning. Hi, Debbie. That was what motivated me in the beginning to really, you know, start doing work on myself, to get into treatment, to start to, you know, work on starting to love myself. And over time it became for me. But it was interesting because it was like I really had to start from the ground up. You know, I really had to reintroduce myself to who I was. I really didn't even know who I was because I had spent so much time living for others and doing things out of a place of what I thought other people wanted that I didn't really know who I was or what I wanted, you know, and I had spent so long criticizing myself that I didn't know another way to be. And so through a lot of work and re-getting to know myself and watching my thoughts and going to therapy and doing all sorts of work, right? I finally got to the point, well, now, today, I mean, a lot of this is in the past, but today I am totally love myself. It's Valentine's Day. It's self-love day. I can proudly say that. But here's the thing is that if anybody who's watching, live or in the replay is struggling with, low self-esteem, low confidence, feeling bad about themselves, or even just feeling bad about being sensitive and being an empath and struggling with feeling like you are too much or you are too emotional or you're too dramatic or all of these things, right, that I had to put up with growing up, what you want to start to do is start really paying attention to what you're saying to yourself. Really, really be aware and pay attention of the narrative that's going on in your mind. And it might, it might not always be like consciously thinking in your head, oh, I'm too sensitive or I don't like myself, but really pay attention to the beliefs that are, running the show. Because a lot of these belief systems that we have had since the time that we were, before we were the age of 8 years old, right? Which is crazy if you think about it, because I know I don't want my 8-year-old running my show. And so we really have to start to look at these things and shine a light on, what is it that we're telling ourselves? And what is it that we believe about ourselves? And then from that place, we want to ask ourselves, why? Where did that come from? Where did those stories come from? Right? And are they even true? Because a lot of times when we're children, we believe the things that our peers or the adults around us are telling us, because it's hard for us to think that they are a bad person. And I'm not saying that they are bad, but it's just that we take that stuff in at face value without questioning it. And then those belief systems get set in and we grow up believing that. And then we're an adult and those beliefs are still running our show, right? But we have to be able to start looking at them and really paying attention to, what are our limiting beliefs? What are we telling ourselves about ourselves? And then to say, is this what I want to believe about myself? Is this serving me to continue to have this belief system about myself, right? Like, is it serving you to be telling yourself those things, to be mean to yourself, And then what would you want to believe instead? How do you want to feel about yourself? How do you want to feel in general in your life? Because when we shine a light on these things and we look at them with self-compassion and we can look at the stories that we told ourselves when we were growing up and really start to look at where those came from, then we are empowered to make a different decision. From that place, once we've identified these things, because I mentioned this a bunch yesterday, awareness is your best friend. It really, truly is. And so from that place, when you have the awareness and you know the things that you're saying to yourself, then you can really start to change them, right? When you catch yourself saying those things or hear yourself, putting yourself down or second guessing yourself or questioning yourself or invalidating your own feelings, you can start to notice that and be like, oh, God, I'm doing it again, right? And not in a self-critical way. We don't want to beat ourselves up for beating ourselves up, right? So not in a self-critical way, but in a like, oh, shit, I'm doing that again. Why am I doing that? And always, and I know I said this yesterday, but this is such a good, powerful question, always asking yourself, would I say these things to a friend? Would I ever say this type of thing to a friend? And the answer is most likely no. And in that case, you then want to ask yourself, well, why is it that I don't deserve the same treatment or the same compassion or the same forgiveness, that I would give to one of my friends? So what we're doing with this work is really dismantling these belief systems that we came up with and really challenging them, shining a light on them, flipping them on their head and taking back the reins of your life, because you don't want to be run by these conscious and unconscious belief systems that are underlying that you've had since you were 8 years old, right? And for those of us that are sensitive, a lot of those belief systems are that we're too sensitive, that being sensitive equals being weak, that there's something wrong with us, that we'll never fit in, that we need to toughen up, that we need to hide our emotions, all these things, right? And none of that is actually true. It's just that that's what we were told or what we thought we were being told or what was reflected back to us from the world around us. But as an adult, you get to retake the reins of your life, right? You get to... Let's see, Health and Fitness is saying, Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. See, she said she would never say the things she says to herself to anybody else. And that's the thing, is when we start to look at it that way, it's like, oh my God, if I said these things to somebody else, they probably wouldn't be friends with me, right? but it's so easy for us, or not easy, but it's so, we don't even really seem to think about it when we're being critical of ourselves. Oftentimes we're our own worst enemy. And a lot of people just go through life living like that, thinking that that's the way that it has to be, but it doesn't. You just have to start challenging it. You just have to start looking at it, and decide if you really want to walk around all day with somebody being mean to you, and that person is you, right? And how much better would you feel if you were, really treating yourself the way that you would treat anybody else? Because I'm willing to bet that all of you out there tuning in right now, you beautiful, sensitive empath people are amazing friends and amazing partners, and like amazing coworkers and all these things. You're so good to so many other people. But why don't you give yourself that same goodness? And so it's really just a question to start asking and to start playing with and to start being aware of and noticing where in your life, you are being mean to yourself, and how can you start to bring in that self-compassion and start to be more kind to yourself? Because really, at the end of the day, that's only going to serve you. I used to feel in the beginning when I started doing this work, I used to feel like if I quote unquote let up on myself, right? That if I was too nice to myself, that I was gonna, I don't know what, like I thought I was gonna, I don't know, become, if I wasn't always hounding myself about being perfect, that I would become this lazy lump. I don't know what I actually thought, but I was afraid to let go of this very perfectionistic, self-critical way of being, because it was how I'd been my whole life. And part of the reason why it was so scary for me, and might be for a lot of you listening, is that we're not being mean to ourselves to be mean to ourselves. It's a coping mechanism, and it's a safety and survival tactic that we came up with when we were children. We are being mean to ourselves because we're trying to fit in. We're trying to just get by. We're trying to make sure that we don't end up in a situation where we get criticized. So, oftentimes we feel if we're the ones that criticize us first, then that's somehow going to save us from ending up in, a scenario where somebody else is going to be able to point something out. If we're always hounding ourselves and if we're always hard to ourselves, then we're going to be safe from other people doing that to us. At least that's how it felt to me, right? Is that it was a survival mechanism. And so that's why I keep saying, bring in this self-compassion, right? And feel for the child that was just trying to survive and just trying to be liked and be loved and to belong. That's all that people want, at the end of the day. That's a basic human need, is to be loved and to feel like we belong. We all want that belonging so much. So the issue is not the wanting to belong. The issue is what we've been telling ourselves about it, and that we have to change to be able to find that or get that, which is so not true. And it may have felt so very true when we were children, and I know that it did for me. And I'm not just talking little kids. I'm talking like teenager and beyond into my 20s as well. But the truth is that when you start to speak kindly to yourself, when you start to let yourself off the hook, when you start to give yourself room to breathe, when you start to bring in that compassion for yourself that you have for everybody else, is when you really start to blossom, is when you really start to rise into the truth of who you are, when you really start to shine. And also when you stop caring so much whether or not you fit in, right? Because we feel alone as sensitives and empaths, but we make up 20% of the population. That's actually a lot of people, right? And there's so many places where we can belong. It's just that we've been trying to fit into a society that was not made to fit us. And so the more that we try and morph ourselves and push ourselves to fit something that doesn't really work for us, the more we lose the truth of who we are. When rather, if you can stand up for who you are and stand up for your sensitivity and stand up for your emotions, right? And really stand in that and be like, no, I'm a super emotional chick and I think that's awesome. And I'm going to own my sensitivity and I'm going to own my empathness, and I'm really going to stand proudly in this because it is a gift. Then you're going to attract the people who want to be around that. You're going to attract the people who like you for who you are. You're going to attract people who are not going to criticize you or put you down for being too emotional or call you crazy, right? You're going to attract people who are going to show up for you in the way that you show up for them. We have to remember that we teach people how to treat us. And this does not mean that it's acceptable for people to treat us badly or to criticize us. But when you let people walk all over you, when you've been a doormat for so long, people start to expect that from you. But when you show up proudly and you're like, no, like I can be an amazing, sensitive, loving, giving being and still stand up for myself and still set boundaries and still take care of myself and still get my needs met, that is standing in your power as an empath and a sensitive, right? We don't have to throw ourselves under the bus to save others. We don't have to put ourselves last in line to take care of the people that we love. We can take care of us and take care of them too. And in fact, from that place, we are going to do so much more good. And so this really starts with, like I said, the unlearning, really looking at what are the things that you learned? What are the stories that you told yourself about who you were when you were growing up? The things that have stuck with you, really looking at that and starting to ask questions. Ask the powerful questions. Where did this come from? Do I really believe this anymore? Do I want to believe this anymore? Is it okay for me to continue talking to myself in this way? Do I want to continue feeling this way? Right? And then really asking yourself, why don't you feel that you deserve to be treated better? And sometimes it's not even that we feel that way, because sometimes we don't even notice that we're being so mean to ourselves until we start paying attention. And so that's the thing, is that we really need to start paying attention to the things that we're saying to ourselves. And so I talked yesterday about taking your emotional pulse and setting an alarm on your phone for a couple times a day to check in with yourself. That is a really good tool to use for this too, because you'll notice not only what you're feeling, tapping into your emotions and the emotions that you've been picking up from others around you, but you will also start to notice the things that you've been saying to yourself throughout the day. And when you have that knowledge and that awareness, then you can start to challenge them, right? And you can really start to bring in that self-love and that self-compassion. And I like to also think about, for a while I carried around a picture of myself as a little girl because I would look at that and I would be like, how could I possibly say the things that I'm saying to myself to her? To that cute little kid, that innocent, sweet, cute little kid, right? And so that's another helpful thing, is to think about yourself as a child and really bring that love for yourself back in, and that kindness for yourself, because that child part of you is still in there. It still exists, and you are worthy and you are deserving of love no matter what. You all are. Everybody is, right? And so really the work here is awareness, and it is self-compassion, and it is self-love, and it's standing proudly in your sensitivity. And, it's okay if you do run into people that criticize you for being too emotional or being too sensitive or whatever, say something. I used to just go, oh, I'm sorry. I would say, I'm sorry. That's what I would always say. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was constantly apologizing for myself, constantly apologizing for my feelings, constantly apologizing for my sensitivity. Stop apologizing. You have nothing to apologize for. If people are criticizing you for your emotions or your sensitivity, it says nothing about you and everything about them. They're either getting triggered or they're uncomfortable because they don't understand it, or it's bringing up something in them. Maybe they don't want to look at their own emotions, and your emotions coming up is making them uncomfortable. Whatever, but it's really not saying anything about you. And so it's okay to say to somebody, I actually really like being sensitive. I mean, that's what I say these days, people don't say that to me so much anymore, but it's okay to stand up for yourself. And if you're in any relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or whether it's a friendship or whether it's an employee boss situation, depending obviously with that, but it's okay to educate people about your sensitivity because a lot of people don't get it, that it's a genetic trait. A lot of people don't understand even what it means. They're just like, oh, wow, you're really emotional. But they don't understand that we actually process sensory data differently than other people, that our legit brain makeup is different than the other 80% of the population. It's totally okay to be like, hey, this is a thing. Have you heard of this? And to talk to people about it, send them an article, send them an article on what it means to be an empath or what it means to be highly sensitive, and start spreading the word, because the more of us as sensitives that come together and really start standing up for our sensitivity and, being proud of it and really, showing off what a beautiful gift it is, the more that we're going to start to change the narrative in society around it, which is one of my bigger missions, is to really educate and shift the tides in how people, at least in the United States, think about sensitivity. Because we're so deeply needed, you guys. And we just have to do the work to come home to the truth of who we are, to come home to our power, and to really show up for ourselves so that we can show up for the world. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys. Feel free to tag me if you have any questions, if you want me to address anything on the live tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 Pacific time, and I will also be back on Friday at 4 Pacific time. And if you are interested in the Sensitive Badass Coaching Mentorship, send me a personal message, reach out to me, let me know. You can check out the sign up page in the profile on my Instagram, or you can look at the link on the title of this Facebook video. Please check it out and see if it's something that, is calling to you. You can book a call with me to chat about it if you would like. Those links are also in my profile, and I will put the link to that in the Facebook video here. All right, you guys, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Happy Self-Love Day. I hope that you guys are doing something amazing for yourselves today, or something amazing with your partner. And let me know how these tips and how these tools work out for you. I love you all, and I will see you tomorrow.